And the Browns
with the Burberry bubble walking in.
Must be cold. Must be cold.
He's been out since December 17th. LeBron, 17 straight games with 25 or more.
He in a zone.
Don't let him into his zone? Okay.
He in a zone right now.
The bearded one, the only one of the big three from Brooklyn taking the floor tonight. Last time that happened against the Lakers, he put on a show. More on that in a minute. It's a doubleheader on TNT, starting with the Lakers and the Nets, finishing with the Warriors and the Mavs. Lots of star power, just like that guy over there. That's Greg Anthony. I'm Chris Miles. It's Steph Curry, Luka the Don as well. So many great players. But yeah, Los Angeles went 7-10 without Anthony Davis on the floor. So much that he does for this team, including winning a championship with him. What have they missed in his
They just need him. And they also need him so they can start to figure out who the hell they are. Can they determine their rotation, their starting five, all those things? Because this group hasn't had a lot of time together.
Look at the numbers on your screen. That's all-star numbers, top-tier NBA player. But before he was hurt, there was a lot of chatter. AD not the player I thought he was going to be. 23 points per game, 52% from the field, 10 rebounds a game, 2 blocks a game. What does he need to do coming back for that chatter to end and for him to solidify his spot as one of the best?
Well, I think he's been better than we're giving him credit for.
Okay.
Now, keep in mind what happened early in the season. He wasn't as good. And then you had LeBron in and out, and the team wasn't functioning well. And so all of the attention went to him. But if he's playing even at that level, I think it makes a big difference. Again, he gives you a lot of pressure on the rim. He can play with his back to the basket. He's a guy that also you can exhale on offensively because you can play through him. And he just gives them balance, and he's going to give them more confidence. Listen, he's one of the probably 12 best players in our league. So anytime you can add a guy of that caliber to your roster, it's going to improve you. And it'll allow Frank Vogel, from a defensive standpoint, to have more versatility in terms of his lineups. I do think you're going to see, as their best lineup moving forward, and they won't necessarily start that way, but him at the 5. Because I think that's where they're potentially their most dynamic. The question, though, is who are going to be the other 4? You would assume Westbrook and LeBron. Who are those other 2 guys, though, down the stretch of games? Because they're going to have to still be able to get stops, and that's something that they've struggled with this season.
Without AD, LeBron has spent some time at the 5, and he's been putting on a show. Like we said, 17 straight games of 25 or more points. That's the 5th longest streak in Lakers history. Last guy to do it was Kobe Bryant in 2012, 2013. How long does LeBron's streak continue with AD coming back?
Well, I think he'd like it to end because that would probably mean that he doesn't have to play 38, 39 minutes, and maybe they can win some games where it doesn't come down to the end. But I think that's the other thing. Like, that's a positive, is that he has gotten into such a good rhythm from an offensive standpoint that now getting AD back, I think that could help lighten the load for him. And even though Russell Westbrook has been the topic of discussion, if you look at him over the last 3 games or so, 4 games, he's actually starting to figure it out. And I think that's going to be important. But again, I go back to the defensive side of the ball. That's where this team has got to get going. They don't shoot it well. And you can't be a poor 3-point shooting team and a poor defensive team if you want to call yourself a contender in that Western Conference.
Russell Westbrook averaging 8 rebounds, 7 assists right now, currently leading the Lakers. How does his role change with AD back? Because it seems as if he was just now starting to figure it out and find his rhythm. Shot 60% from the floor against Miami the other night.
Well, I think it actually can help him because with a guy like Davis on the floor, he's going to garner a lot of attention. And so sometimes the help isn't as apt to want to come to you when you're in attack mode. And so that's something that, from a field standpoint, that Westbrook can start to develop. Because his big issue, I thought early on, was he was thinking too much and he was trying too hard. And I think here of late, he's kind of found a rhythm of how he's going to attack and where he's going to get it. Having said that, though, it's going to be an adjustment for everybody, getting Anthony Davis out there. But in order for them to have a chance to be relevant in that Western Conference, AD's going to have to play at an all-star caliber level. And Russell Westbrook's going to have to be able to quiet all the naysayers out there with his play.
On the other side, the Brooklyn Nets going without KD and Kyrie. James Harden out there. This happened before on Christmas. Remember, James Harden had that triple-double against the Lakers with no KD and Kyrie. So are we expecting an encore performance? That's a lot, a 30-point triple-double to expect of anyone.
Not of him. I mean, he's been known to do it, and he's going into his rocket mode, is what I call it tonight, because he doesn't have Kyrie out there. He's not going to have KD out there, and so he knows that they're going to have a lot of usage and a lot of the ball in his hands for the majority of this game. And so I would think he's going to be aggressive. And remember, this is still a Laker team that on paper they look like they could be solid defensively, but on the floor they're not. And he knows that, and he's going to be in attack mode. I'll be interested to see how many minutes does AD play, what those lineups look like. But I think, listen, James Harden is a phenomenal talent, and he seems to be rounding into shape, starting to figure it out. And, of course, as soon as he does, now he's going to be out there by himself.
I like how you said he's rounding in the shape when he was leading the league in assists until Chris Paul recently took that over. But that's just where the bar is for James Harden.
Yeah, and it's not the assist, it's the scoring. Because he's been assisting and he's been facilitating for the most part. What he hadn't been is that dominant offensive force in terms of his scoring. That's the element of his game that we need to see a lot of tonight if they want to have a chance to win this game.
Outside of James Harden, who's the most important, impactful player for the Nets tonight?
I think Patty Mills has to really play well because he can create a lot of opportunity. His movement without the basketball is going to be vital, and there will be a lot of opportunities for him to create shots for himself because of that movement. And then I think LaMarcus Aldridge is somebody that could have an impact for them. He's had some really good games this season. Hasn't been as consistent, but he's a guy that I think because of his experience and his skill set, I think he could play a big role.
One of my favorite parts of All-Star Weekend, the Rising Stars game, because you really get to see these guys go against each other. But it's different this year because there's actually going to be 4 teams with 7 players on each. There's going to be a mini tournament of 3 games. And check this out, the Elam ending. We all know what that is by now. You're going to get 4 G League Ignite players to go along with the 12 rookies and the 12 sophomores. So we know that there were 2 lottery picks from the G League Ignite last year, and Jalen Green and Jonathan Kuminga. And this year they've got some very talented players in Jaden Hardy and Scoot Henderson. What do you make of the G League Ignite young talented players getting into this as well?
Well, I'm excited for them to be on this stage, and you just talked about those 2 young men. They obviously have a lot of talent, and this will be kind of a coming out party for them. I'm interested to see this whole format and how it plays out because this is all new to me. I wasn't even aware of all the changes. I was just going in with the assumption it's going to be, the U.S. versus the world, but they've changed it up. And I hope it has the kind of impact the changes they made for the regular All-Star game had, because there was skepticism going into that. And I tell you what, it has played out beautifully. I think it's made it more entertaining for the fans. I'm hoping we have the same kind of impact.
What do you think about the 7-player teams? It makes me think of when you go to like an AAU tournament, and the guys on the floor are going to play most of the time. What do you make of that at the NBA level?
I don't know. I want to see it. Obviously they're not going to play 48-minute games. So, and it's going to be, won't be as physical or as defensive-minded. But I do want to see these young guys. Listen, a lot of these guys are going to be the future stars of this league. And so as a fan, you just want to see them in an element where they kind of just get to go back to their roots and